Hello, 405, and welcome to Chapter 13, The Psychodynamic Approach to Leadership. This approach I found very interesting, and it's very different from anything else we've talked about, and it deals with psychology and personality. As you remember from our earlier discussions, personality is a fairly stable thing in people. It's hard to change. It was defined as a consistent pattern of ways of thinking, feeling, and acting with regard to the environment, including other people. So this chapter we're going to talk all about personality and how leaders and followers have to know each other's personality in order to work effectively. Okay, so it's affected by the environment, including the people in the environment, and characterized by tendencies or qualities. And there are many tendencies and qualities. And the book kind of talked about a couple examples. Somebody could be shy, intelligent, and rigid, or they could be creative, independent, spontaneous. So you can see where there's many combinations, probably limitless. So the psychodynamic approach talks about the function of leaders, and they have to become aware of their own type as well as the personalities of their followers. And some of the assumptions to this is personality characteristics are deeply ingrained and hard to change, and we talked about that before. They're basically stable and hard to change in any significant way. People have motives and feelings that are unconscious. Sometimes we just do things unconsciously. And people's behavior results from observable actions, responses, and from emotional effects of past experience. So what we've experienced in the past has helped formulate our personality, and then that affects things that we do currently and in the future. So several different views of this were discussed. The first one's transactional analysis, and this is also called social psychiatry because it focuses not only on the individual but with one's relationship with others. And this theory says that there are three ego states: parent, child, and adult. And that people shift in and out of these three ego states depending upon the circumstances and the environment at the time something is happening. So the parent and child ego states are subdivided. The parent state can be controlling or nurturing, and the child state could be a free child or adapted child. Adapted is a person who conforms and adapts to the demands of others, versus a free child is when a person acts and feels as if they're uninhibited and unsocialized. And he identified the adult state as the current self. Okay, and the ego state's not the same as personality. Okay, it's kind of in how we react to someone else's behavior. Okay. So he developed an egogram, which is created by a person's states at the time. And here's an example of one that shows this person is mainly in the adult stages and frequently is in the adapted child and nurturing parent. Okay? So transactional analysis occurs when the ego states of two people interacting are assessed. And we say that they're complementary if one person is a nurturing parent and the other is an adaptive child. That works real well together. However, when things sometimes don't work so well together, the leader could be in an adult stage and the subordinate could respond with the free child ego, which could be negative and rejecting input from the leader. So effective leadership and followership depend on two or more people operating in the adult ego state. The second theory has to do with Freud. We've all heard of Freud, the father of psychiatry. And what Freud said is that core personality is inborn and instinctual. We're born with it. But we also have different life experiences, values, attitudes, and beliefs are overlaid on this core personality, and that there are three types. The first type is the erotic type. This is the type that wants to be loved or be loved, wants the group or team to be a family, can be quite dependent and needy. Okay, the second type is obsessive. This type prefers order and stability and maintaining status quo. This type could also be aggressive and domineering. So you can see where each type kind of has some positives, some negatives. A narcissist type might not be the thing you think of when you think of narcissistic people. It's not really egotistical or vain. It's a person that takes a lot of pride in their accomplishments. And they have a clear vision of what needs to be done. Okay, so it's a little bit different. And then a fourth type that another researcher came up with after Freud was the marketer. This is the type that adapts readily to changes in society and organizations. They value personal development and competency. They're very good at facilitating and networking, and they want to achieve some sort of consensus through collaboration. Okay, so Freud said that there are productive and unproductive versions of these types. Okay, a productive person is defined as free and not dependent, guided by reason. They're active, they're proactive, they understand the situation, they have a purpose in life, versus the unproductive person is limited and averse to risk, irrational, reactive, superficial, uncommitted. And what Freud came up with is the best personality type is a productive narcissistic, for leadership. And this person is a visionary. Okay, they're able to motivate others to accept the vision and work toward it. But they also have, strengths and weaknesses associated with this type. So what this means is if we have to work with narcissistic leaders, if they are the best personality type, that followers need to know their own personality type. They need to know that these narcissistic leaders won't satisfy their needs. They need to find satisfaction for their needs somewhere else. They need to know what they're doing, have an excellent knowledge of their own field. They need to avoid getting their ego involved, and they need to protect the image of the leader. This leader is especially needed in organizations where there's crisis and change occurring. Works especially well because they have to be visionary and have to be pretty motivated and driven. The third type of theory that the book discussed was the Jung theory. And Jung's way of classifying people and their personalities assumed that human behavior is predictable and understandable. People have preferences for how they think and feel, and these preferences become the basis for what we do, as far as at work and otherwise. So Jung came up with 4 classifications or types. And these types are derived from different things. Like the first one, where a person derives his or her energy. If a person derives his or her energy externally, they're considered an extroverted. If they derive their energy internally, they're introverted. Okay, the second one is the way in which a person gathers information. Is it precise, sequential, or more intuitive and random? That would be the sensing versus intuitive. So if a person prefers to gather information in a precise or insightful way, okay? Thinking versus feeling. If a person prefers to make decisions rationally or subjectively. Okay, and then the last one's judging versus perceiving. If a person prefers to live in an organized or spontaneous way. Okay. So how we can use this, some researchers developed a matrix showing how leaders should deal with different subordinates of the same or different dimensions. So we can look at our own, we can look at the leader, and then see how should we deal with that. Okay, so for instance, an extroverted leader interacting with an introverted follower, the leader likes to talk a lot and often dominates the discussion. An introverted follower kind of likes to sit back and listen and digest what's being said and think it through. So the solution is that the leader needs to back off during the conversation, or may suggest getting back together later after the introvert has time to think about all this, to go over what needs to be done. Okay, so understanding and awareness of these types can become useful in communicating effectively. Okay, so how does this all work? Okay, the primary consideration is to raise awareness of leaders and followers, okay, as far as the personality types and implications of these types on work and relationships. Okay, so assessments accomplished, psychological types, we have the Myers-Briggs type indicator or similar method of questionnaire. Ego states, there's a model, and we can look at our ego states and see how that corresponds to leaders and followers. So the application of the approach is to determine the most favorable kind of work for an individual based on their preferences in terms of gathering information, making decisions, structuring work, and dealing with people. So the strengths of the approach, it results in an analysis of the relationship between the leader and follower. So we're focused in on that actual relationship and how we can make that the best to be effective in the organization. Okay, it's based on a search for universal truth. It's based upon what actually makes people do, what they do. It emphasizes the leader's need for insight. The leader has to step back and think about their followers, and what type are their followers? What do their followers need? It discourages being manipulative. Okay, lots of criticisms though. Most of these things don't have a lot of reliability or validity. There have been some question as far as the Myers-Briggs, and there are limitations as far as the ego states. There's no way really to assess that. It's based on abnormal rather than normal psychology. It's a little disturbing, but that's what they had to test this on early on. Focus is primarily on personalities of leaders and followers. Okay, it rejects the notion that emotional reactions occur toward leaders, followers, and coworkers, and those reactions arise from the predispositions in individuals. It doesn't lend itself to traditional training. You can't really train somebody in, how to change their type, since it's a stable characteristic, though you can train people in how to deal with each other as far as types go, which I think is an important takeaway from this whole theory. Those are the high points for the psychodynamic approach. I hope you found it interesting, and when you did the activity and found your own type, that you kind of analyzed that and found some things in there that maybe surprised you or maybe not. So, thank you.